This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 106. What do you do when you're worried about becoming that person who says no to cake? Let's talk about it. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? We are going to talk about being that person today. So I'm going to get into exactly what I mean when I say that person in just a few seconds. And as I start to describe that person, you will get it. And you may start to think of examples of that person you already know in your life. And then once I describe that person, I'm also going to talk about what to do if and when you do, in fact, become that person, and what to do when people have opinions about it. So before I get into that, this episode is largely inspired by a conversation I had with a client earlier this week. It was such a great, eye-opening conversation, and I left the coaching session with loads of thoughts and ideas about what it means to be that person, that I wanted to bring those ideas here to the podcast. Because I'm going to bet a nickel that this client is not the only woman out there concerned about becoming that person. Okay? So here it is. Let me explain exactly what I mean by this so I can stop being nebulous and make it crystal clear. Let me give you some context. So during this particular coaching session, I was talking with this client about being at her kid's friend's birthday party and what to do about the birthday cake that inevitably gets passed out. And she stated, very matter-of-factly, I don't want to be that mom. And when we dove into this a little further, she simply stated she didn't want to be that mom who declined the cake at a kid's birthday party. And that was it. She made it very clear she didn't want to be that person. And it was those words, or her choice of description, that mom or that person, those were the words that really stuck out to me. And that is what I'm going to blow up today. Because what I realized, especially after reflecting on it after the coaching session ended, is that I am, in fact, that person. I am that mom. I am that woman. I am that woman who usually doesn't eat the cake at a kid's birthday party unless it looks absolutely amazing to me. I am that person who will skip the fast food or pizza provided at lunch meetings and bring my own salad instead. I am that woman who doesn't always get ice cream with her kids. I am that person who gets up at the crack of dawn to work out before catching a flight. I am that person. But I never really thought of it that way until this coaching session. I never really thought about saying no to cake or skipping pizza or ice cream or drinking water while most everyone else is drinking wine or mixed drinks. I never thought of those behaviors as making me that person because I don't see it that way. But after hearing my clients' comments and thinking about other conversations I've had with other clients, I think this warrants pulling apart. Because what I realized was that part of my client's concern about saying no to birthday cake at a kid party was the fear that she would be seen as that person. So we need to talk about what it actually means to be that person and dismantle it so that you can make choices about food and about how you eat from a place of freedom and empowerment instead of making choices that you think will keep you from being seen as that person. Okay, so here's where I'm going today. We are going to talk about what it means to be that person in the context of eating and moving. So specifically, I'm going to pull out some of the negative and positive connotations of having the label of that person in the context of your nutrition and exercise. Then we're going to take this back to what's really at stake here. And that means we're going to talk about other people's opinions of you. Because really, you can only be that person if you've decided that other people think that about you, or unless somebody says it to you outright. And in either case, I've got some ideas that are going to help you with this, okay? And rather than making this out to be a negative thing, I'm going to offer you some ideas that might help you see being that person just a little differently. All right? You ready to do this? Let's go. Okay, so first, let's talk about what exactly I mean when I'm talking about that person. And again, I'm talking about being that person in the context of eating and moving. So as I started describing earlier, that person in the context of how she eats, I would use one word to describe her: choosy. That's it. That person is choosy about what she eats. And what exactly does that mean? It means she thinks about the food options in front of her and makes a thoughtful decision about what foods she's going to eat before she eats them. Really, if you want to boil it down, That's it. She's being choosy. So if she's at a birthday party, like the example my client gave me, or if she's at any gathering or any party where there is food, she will look at the options in front of her and make a choice. And it may mean that she chooses not to have the birthday cake because it's not what she planned, or because she wants to treat herself later with the homemade chocolate chip cookies she has at home. Or she knows she's going to dinner later and has decided to get a really good glass of Zinfandel and she doesn't want to have the cake on top of it. She's being choosy. So being that person may also mean that she doesn't get ice cream with her kids every time she and her family go to the ice cream shop. And that may be because she's decided she doesn't need to have ice cream every time she goes out. Or she's decided she wants to cut down on how much sugar she's eating. Or she's just decided that she feels better when she doesn't load up on ice cream. Whatever it is, that person has made a choice. She is being choosy about how she's treating herself. Okay, so let's also talk about being that person from an exercise standpoint. So that person may be choosy about how she spends her time because exercise is a priority. It may mean that she chooses to go to bed early so she can get up early and exercise because it's the only time in her day that consistently works for her to get it in. It may mean that she leaves a party early or that she doesn't drink at the party, even though everyone else is drinking, because she wants to get up and go for a run at the crack of dawn. Or it may mean that she brings her workout clothes and works out while she's on vacation and chooses hotels based on the availability of a gym. She's being choosy. So that is what I am talking about. That person is the woman or man who is choosy about how she eats and about how she moves. And while she may make choices that are different from her friends or family, it's neither good nor bad. It's just a choice. I see it as being choosy. All right? So I just want to be clear on what we're talking about when I say that person. Okay, now let's talk about how this can be construed. Because when I say that person, and even when my client was explaining how she was concerned about being seen as that mom, I think it often gets seen in a negative light. But I think there can actually be some positive to this. I truly believe that you can be that person and it's actually not a bad thing. So in this case, I see being that person as being independent. That person, she's doing her own thing. She's not going along with the crowd. She's not having the birthday cake just because everyone else is doing it. She's not drinking wine just because someone gave her a glass of red as big as her face. She's not staying at the party hours past her bedtime just because everyone else is still going strong. She is living her life by her own rules, and she doesn't feel the need to do what everyone else is doing. And I see that as very much a positive. And another way being that person can also be positive is when you can be an example. So go back to our birthday party scenario. If you are that person and choose not to have the cake, you're demonstrating, hey, I chose not to have the cake and I'm just fine without it. Not having this cake is not a big deal. And you can be an example of someone who is just fine without the cake. All right? You can be an example. So before I go any further, here is an important note I want to make. To be crystal clear, you are not skipping the cake or skipping the ice cream or declining the wine or going to bed early for the express purpose of being all holier than thou. Okay? No, absolutely not. That is not the idea here. I don't see being that person and skipping cake or wine as being better in any way, shape, or form. That is not the point at all. There is no moral badge of honor for skipping the cake. And if you're doing it for those reasons, then we need to talk. Okay? I want to make that very clear. Instead, you are making the choice to have or not have the cake from a clean place that is in service to you. Your choice really should have nothing to do with how you come off to other people. That is missing the point entirely. You are making a choice for you and you alone. Okay? And to add to this further, so here's how you know if being that person is a positive or negative for you. You'll know by how you feel. And you can even ask yourself, how do you feel when you're being that person? How do you feel when you're making your choice? Meaning, do you feel holier than thou? And are you looking down on your friends who are having the cake? Or are you being that person from a place of restriction where you find yourself white knuckling it through the party so you don't go inhale a piece of cake? Or are you choosing not to have the cake as a way of punishing yourself for other food decisions you made earlier in the day? And I ask these questions because that's when being that person is working against you. Okay? If you want to be that person, and if you want it to help you and you want it to last, the decisions you're making need to come from a clean, balanced, healthy place. not from a place of restriction or one-upmanship or punishment. I want to make that super clear. And the point here is to go inside. Be aware, okay? It always goes back to awareness. You will only know if you are being that person in a positive way when you go inside and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I choosing to not have the cake? So I have said this before, and I will say it again here, but there is a big, big difference between telling yourself, I can't have this piece of cake, or I shouldn't have this piece of cake, versus I am choosing not to have this piece of cake. Okay? That right there, that is essential. And the difference between can't, shouldn't, and I am choosing not to, that difference is huge because nothing is off limits. Okay? You can have the cake. You can have wine. You can do whatever you want. There is no right or wrong here. Instead, you are making your decision from a place of abundance. You're not restricting or depriving yourself all the stink because you can have whatever you want. And it will feel very, very different to choose not to have something from a place of abundance and empowerment versus choosing not to have something from a place of restriction. That is essential to understand. So when you become that person, remember what I said at the outset, you are being choosy, meaning you're making an informed, conscientious choice from a clean place. You are making your own decisions from a place of empowerment. And that is when you can confidently tell yourself, I've thought about this. I've looked at what's in front of me. I know I can have this cake if I want it, but I really don't want it. I'm going to have something else that I make for myself at home, and I'm choosing not to have this cake right now. And this is very different from being that person and not having the cake because you're telling yourself, I can't have this. I really shouldn't have this. That is coming from a place of restriction, deprivation, and punishment. And that's not going to work. And that's one of the ways being that person has a negative connotation. Remember, can't and shouldn't imply an outside force acting upon you. Can't and shouldn't imply that some force is telling you what to do. And that is going to feel very different from being that person who makes her choice from an empowered place and practicing I choose. Those are very, very different. Okay. So another way that being that person can have a negative connotation is if you impose your opinions or actions on someone else, or if you make your choice in a disruptive way. Okay. So again, go back to our birthday cake example. If you choose not to have the cake, you just choose it. That's it. Okay. You don't make a big deal about it. You don't announce it. You don't say, oh my God, there's no way I'm having that cake. There's so much sugar and fat in it. No, you don't say anything about it. You just don't have the cake. Period. End. When you go and make a big deal about it, or if you impose your choice on other people, that's when you're being that person in an annoying way, okay? That's when it can be a problem and when it's not going to cast you in the best light. So be choosy. Be thoughtful about the choices you're making in relation to eating and moving, and leave it at that. That's it. You don't make a big deal of it. You choose not to have the cake. You don't over-explain. You don't go off on a tirade about processed food and how sugar is the enemy. You don't look down on anyone around you for having the cake. You just choose not to have it. Or you choose to leave the party early so you can get up early to get your workout in. You don't get into a monologue about exercise. You don't make a show of it. You don't make a scene. You just make your choice. Okay? And the recurring theme here is that this is not a big deal. It's cake or ice cream or a glass of wine or a workout. Okay? You either choose to have it or you choose not to, and you make an empowered, confident choice. That's it. All right, so now let's talk about something that comes up all the time because I've had this conversation many, many times, and I think it's an important consideration to pull apart. So many of you have told me you don't want to be that person because you think it will be awkward if you don't have the birthday cake, or it will be weird for your coworkers if you are the only one not having the glass of wine, or that it's not normal for you to be leaving a party so early. And my question in response to that will always be, will it really be awkward for the other person? Will it really be awkward for your friends if you don't have the cake? Really? Will it really be weird for your coworkers if you're the only one not having wine at a work dinner? Will it really be that strange for your friends if you're the first one to leave the party? And I bring this up for this reason. Often, the thing that we are afraid other people are going to think about us is what we are already thinking about ourselves. Okay? Really think about that for a minute. Whatever it is you are concerned your friends might be thinking about you is often what we are already thinking about ourselves. And often it doesn't feel good. So, for example, imagine you are the first one to leave a party with your friends because you want to go to bed at a decent time so you can get up early for your morning workout. So some of you have told me you don't want to be that person because you're concerned your friends are going to think you're no fun. But often when I dive into this with a client, what I find is that she feels that she is being no fun. But then that gives us an opportunity to pull that belief apart. And we'll get into why she thinks she's no fun by leaving the party early. And there is no right or wrong answer here. This is not about beating yourself up for your choices. Instead, it's getting curious and looking inside to see what is getting in the way of you living in alignment with your desires. So let's go back to this example. You want to leave the party early so you can wake up early, but you're concerned your friends will think you're no fun. So my next question and follow-up will be, so what happens if your friends do think that you're no fun? Then what? So I really, really love diving into this question. And all we're doing is taking whatever your perceived worst case scenario is, and we're going there. Whatever it is that you're concerned might happen, we imagine it. So say your friends do think you're no fun for leaving the party early so that you can get up and work out. Here's the next question to ask yourself. And then what? Again, another one of my favorites. And then what? What happens if your friends think you're no fun? And again, often when I ask this question, the answer that comes up from my client is, I will feel sad or hurt or embarrassed. And then you can keep going here. So say you do feel sad or hurt or embarrassed. Ask it again. And then what? What happens? There it is. You feel something. You feel something. So this may be oversimplifying, but I have had this conversation enough times in enough situations with enough clients that I've distilled out the recurring pattern. And this is it for many of you. So to put it very simply, you're worried about being that person because your friends or your family or your coworkers may think something about you, and then you'll feel something. So let me ask you this. What is the worst that happens when you feel something? You feel it. You feel sad. That's it. You own it. You allow it. You process it. You feel the emotion. And if you've been around here at all, you know what I'm going to say. Practice letting yourself feel whatever emotion comes up for you. Don't ignore it. Don't shove it in a pocket. Don't buffer it. Don't walk away from it. Instead, allow it. Allow yourself to feel sad if your friends think something negative about you because you made a choice to leave the party early, to get up early so you can exercise. Feel it. Feel all of it. And here's why. And this is another big takeaway here. I've said it before, but it most definitely applies here. No emotion can harm you. All right? No emotion can harm you unless you let it. And I think this is such an important concept to grasp. And even though when I say it, it may sound super obvious and straightforward, it's often this very idea that stops you. Because, and this is another important takeaway here, everything you do or don't do is because of how you think it will make you feel. Okay? Really think about that. Everything you do or don't do is because of how you think it will make you feel. So go back to the birthday cake and leaving the party early and declining wine. Or really, think of any situation where you make a choice that might go against what is expected or considered normal. I will argue that your fear of being seen as that person is really the surface level fear. I really don't think that's all of it. I don't think the story ends there. There's more to it. And I truly believe that beyond the surface level concern of being that person, it comes back to other people's opinions of you. And even deeper than that, what you will feel if and when someone does have an opinion of you. So I have two things to help you with this. So first, remember that no one is thinking about you as much as you are thinking about yourself. Okay? And I don't say that to be rude or snarky or mean, but in all honesty, no one is thinking that hard about you. And that's largely because everyone else is too busy worrying about themselves. Okay? So rest assured, you are not the only one worried about how you're coming off and what other people are thinking and what their opinions are of you. We are all doing the same thing. So even though to you, skipping the birthday cake may seem like a big, hairy deal and you're worried your friends are going to have a 15-minute gossip session about it behind your back, we don't know if that's actually going to happen. Okay? You don't know if your friends are going to turn it against you. We don't really know what they're thinking of you unless they spell it out for you. And if they do, and they use your skipping cake as a reason to rip you apart and say nasty things about you, then I think we have an even bigger issue here. But in most cases, your friends, your coworkers, your family, they are not going to think about your choices nearly as much as you are, because we are all busy worrying about ourselves. We're humans. We are egocentric beings by nature. So I'm going to bet a nickel that no one is spending time picking apart your decisions as much as you are. And if they are, that's not your business, because your choice has nothing to do with them. Your choice has everything to do with you, and it's up to your friends or your family or your coworkers what they make your decision mean. And that's just it. That's where we run into problems. You not having cake, that's neutral. It's neither good nor bad, right? It just is. You didn't have cake. It only becomes a problem when you or your friends make it mean something. They could make it mean that you're being too strict or uptight or restrictive, or they could simply make it mean nothing. You made a choice to not have the cake. And really, unless they tell you outright, we have no idea what your friends are thinking, because other people's opinions of you are none of your business. Really. But again, at the heart of this, remember that no one is thinking that hard about your choice to skip the cake. Okay? I promise. No one is thinking that hard about it. And then 2, if people are in fact thinking about your choice and they have an opinion about it, what if you decided to let people have their opinions about you? Because they're going to anyway. Whether you eat the cake or not, there may be opinions of you. Okay? You may have friends that are thinking to themselves, okay, cool. I told myself I wasn't going to have this cake, and I see she's not having the cake either. I'm not the only one. Or someone else may be thinking, wow, I can't believe she's not having cake. I wonder if she's restricting herself all to hell and if she's really miserable. Another friend may be thinking, hey, I wonder how much willpower she's using to say no to that cake. And another friend might be thinking, that is so annoying. Why does she have to be that person and skip the cake when all the rest of us are having a piece? And really, we have no idea what's going on in your friends' heads. And at the end of the day, all you did was say no to cake. That's it. You didn't solve a complicated physics equation. You didn't dance naked on a table. You just skipped the cake. Nothing more, nothing less. And I bring all of this up to say, let people have opinions of you. In fact, let them be wrong about you. It's okay. Let your friends or your in-laws or your coworkers, let them think you are that person if that's what they decide to believe about you. Because at the end of the day, whose opinion of you matters most? And you know what I'm going to say here? Yours. It's your opinion of yourself that matters most. And here's what I want to add to that. If you have done your work and you are choosing not to have the cake from a clean place and you're not white knuckling it through dessert, and you've done your work and are making an empowered choice to leave the party early so you can wake up in time to get your workout done, and you have done your work to comfortably decline that wine at dinner with your coworkers, when you have done that work and you own who you are and you own the choices you make and you own who you are becoming by way of those choices, then I would go so far as to say your opinion of yourself is the one that matters most. When you're operating from a place of integrity and when you make decisions from a place that feels real and true and authentic to you, that's when you are bringing your highest version to the table. Okay? So that is why I make such a big stink about getting really clear on your reasons and motivation behind your choices. I want you to like your reasons for choosing to skip the cake. Because when you do that, you are not going to feel like that person. Do you see that? When you are fully honest with yourself and you know you're making choices about your health, nutrition, and exercise from a clean place and not from a place of restriction, deprivation, or punishment, you won't even be thinking about being that person because your actions are simply reflecting what is real and true for you. I mentioned it before, but I didn't really think twice about any of the things I do to take care of myself. It never really occurred to me that I might be that person when I don't have birthday cake at my kids' friends' birthday parties, or that I am that person because I don't drink, or because I get up at the crack of dawn to exercise, or because I pack workout clothes and exercise while I'm on vacation. I do all of those things because I like the way I feel when I take care of myself. I've created a lifestyle of habits that include eating and moving a certain way, and I live it out. That's it. I don't make it any more complicated than that. I don't think about being that person. So when I make choices and say no to cake or wine, or if I leave early from a party, I don't feel deprived or restricted or stressed or anxious or anything. These choices are just how I roll. It's just part of who I am. And if those choices make me that person, then I guess I'll take it. And I would encourage you to consider the same for yourself. Give yourself permission to be that person. Make choices that are in alignment with what is real and true for you. Give yourself permission to make choices that might not be the same as what everyone else is doing. Let people have opinions of you. And practice feeling whatever it is you feel when people do have their opinions of you. Prove to yourself that you can handle whatever emotion comes up when people have opinions about you. And let people be wrong about you. That's it. That's the secret sauce right there. And this goes far beyond you choosing not to have a piece of kid's birthday cake, by the way. If you are willing to feel whatever negative emotion comes up for you when your friends or family thinks that you are that person, and you show yourself that you've got your own back and you will treat yourself with kindness no matter what, that's when you'll think about being that person less and less. When you make other people's opinions mean nothing about you, and that you're going to be nice to yourself for making a choice that runs in alignment with your goals, regardless of what other people think about it, that is huge. That is serious growth right there. And that is letting go of other people's opinions in exchange for the one that truly matters. Yours. So, to make this loud and clear, let me spell it out. The more negative emotion you are willing to feel, the more success you will have. This really is the truth. I may need to put that on a t-shirt, seriously. And then last, I want to bring up one last thing. And this could very well be a separate podcast on its own. But the other, bigger, underlying issue here is this. Often, we are afraid to do something that is different from the norm. So you may tell me, it's not normal to skip cake at a kid's birthday party. Or you may think, it's not normal to skip drinks at a work dinner when all of your coworkers are drinking. Or you may think it's not normal to leave a party early so you can go to bed in time for a workout. And the theme I see here is a concern about doing something that goes against what is considered normal. And as you can imagine, I've got a response for that. And my response is, says who? So meaning, who is it that decided you have to have cake at every kid's birthday party you go to? Who made the rule that says if your coworkers are drinking, you must have a drink too? Who decided that it's not normal to leave a party so you can get up early to work out? Says who? So what exactly is normal? And who's deciding that? Who's in charge and making that decision? So you can take it even further. Is it normal to go out to dinner and eat fast food or takeout most nights of the week? Is it normal to go out for ice cream at least once a week with your kids? Is it normal to have cake at every kid's birthday party you attend? Is it normal to drink wine when you go to dinner with your coworkers? Is it normal to overeat because that's when everyone else does? And I bring up all of this because I want you to decide for yourself. I do not have the answer here. I do not have your answer. I don't know what normal is. I am not the authority on that. In fact, no one is. I only know what is normal for me. And you get to decide what is normal for you. And anyone who tries to tell you that what you're choosing is not normal, I would wonder what's going on there. So please think about that. The next time you're at a party and someone offers you cake or a glass of wine and you don't want it, you get to decide that that is what's normal for you. The next time you leave a party so you can go to bed when you want to, you get to decide that that's what's normal for you. You are not answering to anyone other than yourself. So give yourself permission to be that person. It is liberating. And if you want help with this, let's go. When you coach with me, we will dive in. You will make decisions. You will practice carrying out those decisions. And I will help you feel all of the things that come up for you when you do this, including what comes up when you think you're being that person. I've got you covered. So check out my website, go to www.carriehollandmd.com/contact, and let's get going. All right. Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you're looking for your next great read, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/books and download my list of most favorite reads. I've got 2 collections waiting for you. One is all about work-life balance. The other is a collection of books that have changed my life. I've referenced many of these books in the podcast, and now you can access those titles all in one place. Again, that's carriehollandmd.com/books. Check it out and find your next great read. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.